It's episode 123 of the Expert Restaurant Roundup. We don't have a restaurant guy here today, but we've got somebody that knows enough about customer service, making smiles, and bringing people back to help any restaurant owner take the practices he did in the chiropractic business, and now he's doing with business consulting to help you do what's right. We'll be back in 1 second. Dr. Kelly Henry, I've got the book. I've got some things earmarked here to talk about. I want you to talk about what you said a minute ago with regards to tying in the restaurant business with your past experience and what you're doing. But first, tell everybody who you are and a little about your background.
Well, first of all, Matt, thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate the invite and excited to be here. As you mentioned, Dr. Kelly Henry, I'm actually a retired chiropractor, practiced for 20 years in New Mexico, built up two very successful practices, my own, and then I had a secondary location, did tremendously well, loved every minute of it, loved helping patients get better and healthier. Customer service was a big portion of my success. I have a passion for it that has grown through the 20 years of practice, and that's part of what I bring to the table with my coaching and consulting. In 2018, decided to retire, sell out at my peak, if you will.
Yep.
Still work with chiropractors and involved with that side of things. But I've been coached since 2003, personally and through business. I know the impact of coaching on my life, my business, my success. So when I retired, I knew that's what I want to go into. So that's where I am today, doing coaching with chiropractors, but a whole bunch of industries with my umbrella policy as the customer service aspect of things that I know and love and love bringing to the table and see the success that I can help my clients with.
And you mentioned that off air, the umbrella policy. I loved it. Exactly. Explain that and how you talked about that.
Well, in my mind, and really this isn't just me talking, you can look at statistics, you can look at some of the biggest businesses in the world, but your customer service is either going to help or hinder your business.
Okay.
So you can put all kinds of things in to grow profits and revenue and marketing and this and that. But if your customer service stinks, it's going to hinder your business and it will not be as effective, will not be successful as it could or should be if you have a focus and foundation of providing stellar customer service to your customer, patient, client, whatever you put there.
Yeah. No, I loved how you call it the umbrella policy. And it's about 5 years ago, I'm talking with a restaurant owner that we work with, and we are a marketing company. So like in one of your chapters where you mentioned, doesn't matter how great your marketing is, if what you're doing sucks, it is what it is. I don't think it said it that eloquent, but it says it. And I was talking to this restaurant owner, and he had asked me the question because I'm adamant that we do a good job of interviewing the restaurants that we consult with. Because I say, hey, you got to have a solid product, you got to have a solid experience, you got to have a solid ownership that is involved day to day. If you're an absentee owner, well, it's pretty obvious, pretty apparent. And talking to this owner, and he said, well, Matt, we've got this 3,000 person database and like 1,050 of them have walked in the last 60 days and done business with me. How do I know they're coming back? And I said, well, Lenny, does your food suck? He looked at me, excuse me? And I said, he said, you just ate. I go, yeah, I thought it was pretty good, but I'm also sitting with the owner. And he goes, no, but the food's great. It's always like this. Okay, cool. Fair enough. I said, now granted, I'm with the owner. I hope I get great service. The service usually awesome here. He said, well, based on Yelp and Google, we're a 4.6, 4.7. Cool. That's solid. I said, the environment's good. I said, well, if your food's solid, your atmosphere is solid, and what you're giving people from a service standpoint solid, the only reason they wouldn't come back is marketing. But at the same time, doesn't matter how good a marketing you have. Like we've had clients that, hey, I look at it and we see their reviews are garbage. And I'm like, how did we get this as a client? The guy's got a 1.0 on Yelp. What, did he piss God off? And so then we realize that's the main problem. So I guess before we dig in a couple of topics I've got, talk about the book that you wrote, the motivation behind it, and a little about what people can expect.
Well, the book itself, as you showed, define and deliver exceptional customer service. I like to think of it as a success manual because, like you just mentioned, I just mentioned, if your service sucks, it's going to be hard to run a effective, successful business. So. Yeah. The book is easy. It's an easy read. It's only about 150 pages long, but it's chock full of practical, easy to implement actions, ideas, and principles that a business owner could take, read today, implement them pretty much tomorrow.
Yep.
And that's what I wanted. A lot of people, a lot of business owners like to make customer service hard. They think it's too expensive, it's too difficult, it's too much training, and it's not. It's simple, it's easy, it's things that you can do that don't take very little money or training to do, that can implement, put into place, and start creating a whole different perception of your business through the customer's eyes in relation to customer service. So again, my philosophy in life, my coaching and consulting philosophy, and certainly in this book, is just doing the simple things consistently is going to create major results. And that's what that book is about.
Yeah. And most of, as the title of this podcast is, it's from America's Best Restaurants. It's Restaurant Expert Roundup. You're not per se an expert at restaurants, but you're an expert at customer service. And when we found this, Gabe on my team and myself, by the way, get online, get it. Is it available on your website, BizPro?
It's actually not available on the website. So Amazon's the best way to find it. I'm in a little transition with websites, so Amazon is the best place to find it. You can get a hard copy, a soft copy, a digital copy, and an audible copy, because I know a lot of people like to listen and do other things. So I have all forms of ways of grabbing that book.
I've got the hard copy. I like hardback books. I like having it in my hand. I like reading it. But when we found this, Gabe and myself, we developed, we're always looking for people that are podcasters or influencers in the space or authors. And sometimes the author, the book we find, isn't a restaurant owner. It's a consultant of a different magnitude. In your case, former chiropractor. And one of the things for me, I've got a friend of mine told me this about 7-8 years ago. He does coaching. He has a coach consistently come in and he changes it. And he told me one of the things he does pretty often is he brings a coach in from a different industry, because that industry has a different set of eyes. And one of the ones talking about medical, Brian Picard, a restaurant owner, was telling me a story a while back. His wife is an emergency room doctor, and she would come in and make more impactful changes in the flow of their kitchen than anybody else. And she was just there to de-stress, because being an emergency room doctor makes working on a burger fryer a lot easier. But she would in there, but she would make efficiencies, because like where she's operating, she's got to reach, like you can't walk places. And so she was cutting 30 seconds here, a minute here. But in essence, she was on accident consulting them from a perspective of a different industry, adapting to that. Talk about, customer service is customer service. It's treating people great. It's having a great experience. But talk about your experience of going from, because I'm sure you coach a lot of successful chiropractors, but then coaching other industries.
You bet. And absolutely love it. And like you said, it's just bringing in that fresh, different set of eyes and perspective. As a business owner, and speaking from experience, you get blinders on. You get in a rut, you get blinders on, and you can't see the forest for the trees. You just get stuck, and so many business owners get stuck with the old adage, keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result, which, never works. Insanity. And so having somebody from the outside come in and go, hey, why do you keep doing this, or why don't you change this? And it's like, a light bulb comes on, and wow, that, and a lot of times in my experience, again, with coaching and consulting, it's not life-changing things. It's just little tweaks here and there that just, for some reason, a business owner can't ever see that when you're in the middle of it. And the other aspect of that, being a business owner and busy, they get busy working in the business instead of stepping back and seeing so they can work on the business. And that's another aspect of coaching, or another aspect that a coach brings, is they can see to work on the business to make it work better inside.
Yeah, there's two things that I reflect back on I'm 46 now, that I reflect back on for about 15 years of my adult career, that I'm like, man, how did I miss it? Because I was a athlete growing up. I swam, I played baseball, I played football, I ran track, I played golf, played football in college. I was accustomed to being coached. And then we also have our education, basically from 5 years old to 22 or 23. Your case, probably a little longer, because you had to do more important stuff than me just getting on a microphone. So my schooling was easier. But I look back, and like from probably 26 till 40, I didn't read, I didn't educate myself, and continue in education, and then I didn't have a coach. And what's changed my business dramatically was in 2016, so 6 to 7 years ago, I found a guy named Billy Jean Shaw out in California, who I ended up hiring as a coach to help me, and became friends with him. And then after Billy, it went from to him to Chris Patterson, and then Chris Patterson to Josh Nelson, who's now my coach. And it's amazing because I'm like, man, if I would have maybe had a coach 10, 15 years ago, where the hell would I be now? And if I would have, this might be live on Fox News or something if it was that. And if I also had read, I didn't read much. I was always had this excuse that I couldn't read, and I had ADD or whatever. I would read magazines was my excuse. And then like now I've got 8 books on my desk that I'm in the process of just rereading those books the next 2 years. Because I found those 8 books specifically each have something that's going to elevate my company to a new level.
Absolutely.
So talk about why we forget about coaching and why we forget about educating ourselves, and we get so involved in the day to day.
Yeah, that's I've wondered the same thing many a time, and I went through a period where I wasn't coached, and I quit educating myself. And I'm like you. I as I mentioned earlier, I hired my first coach back in 2003 because I was tired of not getting the results I wanted, and needed some help, and my career skyrocketed from there. And then adding the aspect of educating myself, I read anywhere between 45 to 50 books a year, just continually pounding my mind with new information, reviewing information, different aspects or a different look at, some of the same information. One, to better myself, better my business, but also I can move it into the realm of my clients so I can help them and just keep myself, my awareness and my education well beyond what they'll ever need me for, but where I can come in with that fresh perspective. But yeah, it's a strange dynamic where people just kind of shut off as far as educating and want to be coached. If the reality is, if people will step back and look at who is being coached, the most successful business people, executives, and certainly athletes. I mean, just look at athletes, the top athletes in any sport have coaches.
Oh, look at Tom Brady. I mean, think Tom Brady's like 80 years old, I think now, on like his 400th Super Bowl. And I was actually going to say that exact thing when you got done was look at here's a kid that was probably coached 4, 5, 6 years old, and then just kept going levels. And here he is now that he doesn't go to the sideline and ignore the coach. He goes to the sideline. He reads the charts. He puts the headphones on. He has a conversation. He comes back in. He's probably a hell of a lot easier to coach now. But I mean, he's got a quarterback coach. He's got an offensive coordinator. He's got a head coach. He's got a strength coach. His strength coach is one of a legend. The stuff he's created and how he's somehow, I think he's the same age as me. And I couldn't imagine like in my 20s getting hit by the people he gets hit by. And now he's doing it. I mean, talking about chiropractors, he's probably seeing one pretty often. But yeah, I mean, that's huge what you just said there. Who's being coached? And I mean, look at the people, the Steph Currys, the Michael Jordans, Damon John. I heard Damon John speak at an event. He actually is friends with my coach, Billy. He spoke at one of Billy's events a couple years ago. He said he paid $1 million for a coaching session. One coach. He said, I won't say who it is, but I had to be in the room with the person. And I knew that 30 minutes with that person could turn that $1 million into 100. And so if somebody at that level, at that caliber is being coached, why the hell aren't all of us?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I tell people all the time, it's not an expense, business owners, when I reach out to them, it's not an expense. Yep. You have to understand it's an investment in your future and your success. And that's really what it is. And I can see how I can't even calculate the investment that it's brought me in my life. And I'm sure you'd say the same thing about you and your business and your experience with coaching. So the other thing is, speaking of Tom Brady, having that drive and that mentality of always improving. I can always improve. I can always get better. He's been in the league for, 20 plus years. You think, what can he improve upon? but he's always striving to get better and move that bar up. I'm sure you have that same mentality. I have that same mentality. It doesn't matter how much I learn, how much I'm coached. I'm always looking to improve. One of my mentors, my coaches, use the term or the phrase, you always have to be green and growing or you're going to be ripe and rotting. And so I've always wanted to be green and continue growing, just keep setting the bar higher and higher. I don't want to relax. I don't want to set back. I don't want to start coasting, because the only way you can coast is downhill. I always want to keep moving forward and improve myself.
I'm gonna have to get you to write a book of quotes. You've dropped like 5 of them here. Like the only way coasting going downhill. I love it, because I tell my team, we've got 12 people now on our sales team, and we got about 10 on management, and we've got people doing the different things. And I'm like, y'all, it's gas pedal every day. If I'm not, like, I get up in the morning, I read most mornings. I take care of my body in the mornings and the afternoons, but I'm also during the day. It's like, there's no coasting. And I remember probably the most dangerous time of my life was in my late 30s. Is friends of mine would call me, and they knew me as a successful marketing consultant. I had one employee, made a lot of money, and they would call me and go, man, you got it made. You're doing it on your own. And I'm like, man, if I keep doing this level I'm at now for the next 20 years, I'll retire happy. And every time I would say it, a little piece of me would die, because I would think I knew I was lying to myself. That yes, I knew I was doing fine financially, but I knew there was so much more, but I wasn't confident enough in myself. And what got me confident enough was a day in July of 2016. I saw an ad for this crazy dude yelling and screaming on Facebook to buy a $5 flash drive, which led me to a webinar, which led me to a coaching session, which led me to about 30 grand later, hiring him and his company for 2.5 years. But it gave me the belief, and it showed me a higher level of, man, there's a lot of opportunities out there.
There is. I tell my clients, the sky's the limit.
Yep.
The only limits on your life are what are in your mind.
Yep.
And unfortunately, people, some people just never grasp that. They never understand that. They get comfortable. They get, I want to make $100,000 a year. They get to that point, they shut down. That's where they want to stay for 40 years. And you and I know that ain't good enough. It's 100,000 to 200 to 500,000 to 1 million to 10 million to 1 billion, whatever the case may be. We're just keep stretching and moving forward. And that's hard to get that into people's minds. Some will grab it, some won't. I have to say, some people live and learn. Some people just live. Those that just live, it's hard to help them move on and enjoy a better life.
Yeah, I had a coach. I got 2 things I want to get into the book here. Before I do that, I had a coach tell me one time. He said, Matt, you made 100 grand a while back, right? Yeah. Okay. Look at the effort it took. Then you made 200. Yeah. Then you made 400. Yeah. Then you made 600. It's like, what's the difference between $100,000 and 100 million? Like, just figure out, a way to multiply you. How can I find 5 mats, 10 mats, 20 mats? Like, now that's what I'm on a task of. Is I've got 8 resumes in my inbox because I made a post this morning, and I got people that want to come work for us. And I realized that I've done what a lot of small business, I'm sure you've seen this a lot of small business have a hard time getting out of their business. They're stuck in the trenches. Me, I had one thing I had to do for 30 minutes today that actually contributed to our actual company. The rest of it was me doing podcast interviews. I was on talk to 2 clients. It was just doing other things. But because I'm out of my business, I'm able to look at it from like a bird above it and say, okay, I need 4 more of that person, 3 more of that person, 2 more of that. Now we go from here to here. And, I look at it. Okay, how do I make $1 million a month now? And how do I make $1 million a week? And how do I do $1 million a day? And it's out there. It's there. It's just a matter of putting your foot on the gas and going to the next level. So this page caught my attention for 2 reasons, but the quote that really got my attention goes on page 54, but on page 55, it says myth number 2, advertising is more important than customer service. I don't disagree at all. I love advertising, but at the same time, if what you're doing sucks, it doesn't really matter. But what got my real attention was on page 54 is they aren't consistent in performing the proper actions. The old saying, practice makes perfect. I've had many coaches go, no, it doesn't. If you're practicing the wrong shit, you got a problem. Talk about what you're talking about here with regards to performing the proper actions, consistency.
it's kind of like golf. When you talk about sports, you can go out and hit the golf in the range and hit a bucket of balls or 200 bucks of balls. But if you don't have somebody helping you swing right, do the right things, grip right, you're just going to reinforce the crappy swing you already have. And that's what a lot of business owners do. We just need to do more of this and more of this, which is just crap. And they just keep doing the crappy things over and over. So it's when just like you said, you got to understand the right things and then do them consistently. That's what's going to create the major results. It's just understanding that concept.
And I took golf lessons a while back. I grew up golfing. My dad, who I saw made a comment on here. What did he say? My dad's one of my business coaches and life coaches and best friends. But he's like,
that's awesome.
Must have excellent service. Him and I on Thursdays do a thing called Fire with Dad. We'll be live tomorrow at 3:00 talking about something random in life. But I grew up golfing with him, and I had this period of time going that he was my coach. Basically, he taught me how to golf. I didn't listen to him half the holes. And then when he wasn't looking, I would listen to what he said and I would go, oh yeah, I fixed it. And I will never forget, because I got to this point of where I was playing a lot of golf outings in my early to mid 30s. And that's all I was playing. And it screws you up. Like, next thing, you're swinging for the fences every damn hole. And so I would go to the range and I couldn't figure out why I couldn't fix this. Well, a friend of mine's like, dude, you need to talk to Doug Martin at the golf ranch. He played on the PGA Tour. He played at the US Open. Dude knows his stuff. So I went down and I go in and I'm like, okay, Doug, here's what I need help with. And he's like, and I said, I pull my driver. He was like, no. Put that crap away and quit telling me what you need help with. Take a pitching wedge, swing 100, hit 100 balls. And what he did was he videotaped me from 4 angles. And then after he videotaped me, he gave me 3 things. He said, okay, you can come back once you've played 9 rounds, and an hour at the range is equivalent to a round. And you have to, every time you grab the club, these 3 items is all I want you to, nothing else. There's 100 things wrong with your swing, but I want you to do these 3 things every time. Every hole, you play 18 holes and you shoot an 82. That means 82 times you pulled this card out and you said these 3 things out loud and did them. And sure enough, because I had gotten to a point where I was always a low 40s golfer. And then that couple of years period on 9 holes, I'm like 55 to 60 all of a sudden. It was just shit. I could hit a house. Got him Chris Mack, who was the basketball coach for Xavier, had a house behind a tee. I hit it. I still don't know how. I mean, it hit it. My guys were like, how did you do that? So I went to him, and no lie, within a month, I had went from 50s to 60s on 9 holes to 42. And I came back and it was wild. He's like, Matt, you see what happens when you practice the correct things over and over and over. Then he gave me 3 more, 9 more rounds, then 3 more. By the end of the summer, I was shooting 36 to 38 every time I stepped on the course. And then, of course, the one time I called, I'm like, dude, Doug, you won't believe it, man. I shot this. And he goes, what did he say? He goes, how many greens in regulation? I told him, he goes, that means you hit 4 3-putts? I'm like, come on, man, I just shot 38.
That's right. Don't burst my bubble here, man.
Exactly.
Oh, that's funny.
The second thing that I saw in here, and I'm huge on this, is enthusiasm and positive mental attitude, which is chapter 15. I had 3 of my sales guys I called last week. I try to call a lot of them every day. And I called one and I said, hey, how was today? It's terrible, shitty. Okay. One, I don't like that answer. It should never be that. You woke up, you're in America, you're alive, and you work for the greatest company and person in the world now. But I said, what happened? He goes, well, I went 1 for 4. I said, okay, well, 1 for 4, huh? He goes, well, 2 of them had to reschedule. They had emergencies. And then the third one, I got on the call and it was the wrong person. So I rescheduled it. I said, so you went 1 for 1? Well, yeah, I guess. And I'm like, dude, you got to get positive. Like, if your mindset, you've got to shift. And his is an atmosphere. He just moved to town. He's working here and he comes from an environment of negativity. Whereas I called my other sales guy, one of them, I said, hey, how was today? He goes, unbelievable. How'd you do? 1 for 4. I'm like, tell me about the 4. And he literally had 4 appointments and he was successful in 1 of the 4. And I'm like, so here's a guy that went 1 for 1, but thought he went 1 for 4. This guy actually did go 1 for 4. But enthusiasm is contagious, positivity is contagious, and attitude. So talk about those with regards to what you've seen in customer service and businesses.
Like you just said, it's contagious, but it's also a magnetic force. So if your mindset is negative, I'm 1 for 4, boo-hoo, terrible day, you are going to have those thoughts that move out and transition to other thoughts in other areas of your life, which becomes a very significant downward spiral attractive force that you're just going to pull negativity towards you. Same holds true for positivity. I'm 1 for 4 hot dog. I had 25% close rate. That's awesome. That's great. I'm gonna keep hitting it and improve that. I'm not sure who has this quote, but it's one of my favorite, or who said it. It's, nothing is good or bad, just thinking makes it so. So we still, if you're a positive thinker, you still have stuff happen in your life that we don't particularly like. So it doesn't change that aspect, but it keeps you focused, keeps you looking at the positive, keeps you attracting more positive, helps you get through those negative times, whereas the negative does just the opposite, obviously. Big factor in just being successful, being able to implement, being able to move forward, work through the valleys of running a business and getting back to the peak. When you have that positive mentality, that enthusiastic mentality, and staying in that mindset as much as possible will contribute to your success almost as anything. Actually, probably more than anything, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I've had my instances, and we all have our times in life where we have a temper, or things are positive or negative. And
Sure.
one of the biggest things I've cut out of my life that's helped is I don't consume media. Oddly enough, considering my company is massively involved. I mean, there's 75 to 100 posts made a day on my behalf on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube. I don't consume it. I might spend 2 or 3 minutes a day on one of those platforms, and it's just to check in on a comment from one of my posts. And I don't put things out there that are negative for the most part. I don't put things out, and I don't consume other people's garbage. And I'm the same way. I was at a party recently with some family, and we're there, and parents are around complaining about gas prices, this and that. And I just go to the side and observe and think and watch. And I don't need to sit there and complain about things, because at the end of the day, things are pretty awesome. But I had, it comes down to your mindset, how you attack things. I'll never forget this. I had probably 2 months. I had a silver Jaguar, 2-door coupe, thought I was James Bond. And I had just gotten it back. Some guy had backed into me at a University of Cincinnati football game, a truck with a trailer hitch right in the middle of the hood. Got a good new hood, got it painted. 2 days after having it back, I'm going down the road in Cincinnati called the Cut in the Hill. It goes right into the city. It's a big hill. You can come down from Kentucky and you see the city, and traffic jam. So I slow down. Well, the guy behind me apparently is texting or doing something, and destroys me. Like, I didn't see it coming. I'm stopped completely, hits me, 5-car pile up. I'm the middle. The Jag is bent in half, like literally bent. Nobody's hurt. We get out, and the cop pulls up, and everybody's yelling and screaming. And I'm standing on the side, just kind of watching. He goes, "Sir, which car is yours?" I said, "Oh, the silver Jag." "Why aren't you back here fighting with these people?" I said, "Because I don't really give a shit." And he's like, "Because you're the crux of it." And then the tow truck guy pulls up, and he hears us talking. He's like, "Hey," and he starts throwing chains around. Well, the one chain hits the front of the hood. Now, put it in perspective, the front of the car, the radiator is literally inside the engine.
Oh, man.
And so he throws his chain over. I go, whoa, bro. I just got the hood replaced. He looks at me. I said, "I'm joking." He goes, "Okay." And the cop's like, how do you have that mentality? I'm like, because honestly, back in college, I had a football coach that talked about these things all the time. Like, if you think about what just happened, it's going to keep going. Like, just smile. You're alive. And I'm looking at this car's bent in half. I should be in a hospital. And I said, these guys are arguing over their bumpers. I don't really care. And I think that you, as a business owner, when you walk in that front door, like, we deal with restaurants, and right now employment's a shit show. Food costs, like chicken breasts, are up like 70% the past week for some reason, even though chicken wings are down. I don't get that. There's supply chain issues. Consumers are cutting back now a little from eating. But if you walk in and you're carrying that on your face and in your language and your attitude, it's going to go across your entire restaurant, and the day is going to suck.
Absolutely.
So,
and that's, just piggyback off of that, that's where customer service really fills in. Prices are up and consumers not getting out as much. But providing, having the attitude, the positive attitude, and then providing the stellar customer service and staying focused on that in itself is another attractive force for people to come in. Yeah, I'm going I want to spend my hard-earned money, or I want to be careful spending my hard-earned money. I'm going to go into this restaurant because they treat me like I am king and queen of the world when I walk in there. And that's it. It virtually makes a business recession-proof. Not exactly, but
I get you. Yeah, you're
to
right.
a great extent, it will, just providing that stellar service.
No, for sure. So you mentioned earlier on that you read a lot. What are a couple books outside of? I mean, everybody should obviously read this, get it on Amazon, leave a review, and then share it with your friends and family and colleagues. But what are a few books that have impacted you recently with regards to business?
Yeah, well, let me give you two. There's just read this a few weeks ago. It's by Brandon. I'm not sure if I'm going to say his last name right. Bornison, something like that. But the book title is Whatever It Takes.
Okay.
And it's basically just having the mentality like we just talked about, whatever it takes. It's not if I'm going to be successful. It's not if I'm going to achieve this goal. It's when, whatever it takes for me to get there. So really resonated with me. Great motivational book. Highly recommend that. And then one that it's not so much a recent read, but it's one I've read many a time and really like his content. I'm sure you know who this gentleman, Grant Cardone, but his book, Be Obsessed or Be Average.
Yep.
Love that book. Read it or read it. I've read it many a time, actually 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Tremendous book on just having that mentality of just keep pushing forward. You know, you can have an obsessed attitude in basically every area of your life that you want to improve, from your relationships, your friends, your family, your business, your charity work, whatever the case may be. You can have that mentality and really get after it. So tremendous book.
Have you been to any of Grant's events? He does the 10X growth conferences, the couple-day events.
I haven't been to the 10X. I was at a smaller conference as his a couple of years ago, and it was tremendous.
He's amazing. Yeah, my 12 of my employees do Cardone training every day. 10X book is a book that all of our employees get, and when we have 30 of them in stock, probably, that when people come by here, you know, when I've known about Grant from the marketing world, because he was a guy that back in like 2016, 17 at marketing conferences, experts from Facebook would get up and talk about this guy that was going to ruin his following. His name was Grant Cardone, and he's using the platforms wrong. And it's kind of funny. Now you look, I have a thing on my desk that says funny money follows attention, and it's got a chart, and it shows the trend of his exposure online to the trend of his company growth. And that exposure started when he started going live like every hour on the hour on all the social media platforms back in like 2016, 17, 18. But, you know, Grant's huge. I was never a fan of his because I kind of had a perception of him. And then I read one of Damon John's books, and he mentioned in there, and I'm adamant that if a professional that I look up to mentions somebody, you know, success leaves clues. So I bought Grant's 10X book and read it. Yeah. And it's funny, a handful of the books I read now that they all mention each other, and it makes sense. But I've got 10 books I read, or 8 books I read all the time, that my goals are reading them the next 2 years consistently. One book I highly recommend, I don't know if you've read it or not, is Deep Work by Cal Newport. You know,
I haven't read it, but yes.
Unbelievable. Yeah, we've got our studio. It's called Deep Work Studios. This is one of our podcast studios we have at the office that we use. And I put it on the wall, and we named our building that we're in, that we own, Deep Work Space and Deep Work Studios, because that book really changed me, because I, up to that point, consumed a lot of content and didn't spend enough time working on projects. And that's what the book's about. It's like, hey, you're a deep thinker. You don't spend 20 minutes and look at your phone alerts every 5 seconds. Spend 2 hours doing something, make it really impactful, and then move on. But that was a big book for me. So I appreciate you being on today. I've got the website here. Who is an ideal business to go to bizprofitboost.com and reach out to you for help? Who is the ideal person that you want to talk to?
I work with all kinds of industries. So the profile, the business owner I'm looking for, one is that had a coach before, looking to take their business to the next level, has already had some success. And again, just has plateaued, maybe took the foot off the accelerator, but they really want to move forward and achieve that next level, next 3, 4, 5, 10 levels. But that's who I'm looking for.
Cool. Well, bizprofitboost.com. Define and deliver exceptional customer service. Make sure you check it out. Dr. Henry, I appreciate having you on today. Any parting words of wisdom?
Customer service will either hinder or enhance your business. I mean, it's just that simple. There's no gray area. It's either black and white. So always be mindful of that, keep that as a focus for any business. And I guarantee it'll pay off in spades when you do that.
Cool. I love it. I appreciate it. And I look forward to having you on in the future to go deeper. That's all we got today. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe. If you're on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, share it, comment, like it, tell your friends. Amazing author, amazing entrepreneur. Make sure you think about what you're doing to keep a positive mindset, to give amazing customer service. And more than anything, like he said, you can advertise all you want, but if what you're doing is not very good, it doesn't matter. So if you need advertising, talk to me. If you need to stop sucking, talk to this man. That's all we got. We'll see you next episode.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.